Hi everyone, it's Rena from Perth IELTS and PTE Tutoring. I'm a private tutor based in Perth, Western Australia that specializes purely in IELTS and PTE Academic. Today I'm going to continue on with PTE Academic, but instead of focusing on question types, we're going to move on to focusing on the skills. So I'm going to call this series PTE Focus, and the first skill we're going to focus on is PTE Reading. Now, PTE reading is assessed throughout the test. There are a total of 9 questions that cover PTE reading, but there are basically just 4 really important ones. The rest are kind of not as important. Okay, so I know I haven't been uploading for a long time, uploading consistently, and I haven't uploaded in a long time, but that's because I teach in person, and that takes up a lot of my time because that is my main job. And I do this for free. So until YouTube can start paying me for this, I gotta keep doing what I do, which is tutoring for reals. Okay, let's jump straight into it. Okay, bye. It's a classic tute, so that means I'll do a little bit of teaching, I will do a little bit of explanation, and then I will definitely, almost certainly show you a demonstration or a couple of demonstrations on a particular platform, most likely ApeUni. Before I go on, I need to preface all of this by saying you can use any platform you like to practice, but you cannot use any platform you like to self-assess. For assessment and practice, you need to go back to Pearson. Now, Pearson has 5 practice tests. That's the only place that you're going to find results that are as close as possible to the real deal. And even then, you can't quite reproduce test conditions. So if you were to have a practice test or a mock test, number 1, do a Pearson practice test. And number 2, do it in a noisy environment. Okay, like at a cafe or in an, I don't even know if these things exist anymore, internet cafes. But yeah, places where other people are talking at the same time. Okay, let's get straight into it. The first thing we're going to cover in this tute are the most important PTE academic reading questions. I focus on 4 because this is where the bulk of your marks come from. The aspects about PTE academic reading that you need to remember. Reasons for really crappy reading scores. There are actual specific reasons why these things happen and why you have very low scores. And of course, there will be a few demos. Alrighty. So let's talk about the most important question types. As I said before, up to 9 questions cover reading. But really, in reality, these 4 are the big ones. They're really important and we need to cover them. They are, in order of importance, as far as I'm concerned, read aloud, fill in the blanks reading only, fill in the blanks reading and writing, highlight incorrect word. How many times will you encounter these question types? So read aloud, you're going to see them, you might have to do a read aloud paragraph up to 7 times. Fill in the blanks reading up to 5 times. Fill in the blanks reading and writing, that's the one with the drop down list, whereas the fill in the blanks reading only is a drag and drop. And highlight incorrect word, you have to do it up to 3 times. Okay, some of the 4 most important, only one assesses reading only, and that is fill in the blanks reading. The others all assess 2, reading and speaking, reading and writing, and reading and listening. So as I said before, reading as a skill is assessed throughout the test. Again, coming back to how PTE is not designed fairly. If you are being assessed for reading, they say we're assessing people holistically. They're not really. Because this doesn't allow you to pick and choose which skills you really need to work on. Okay? But that's for another day. I'm sure I've had a whinge before about PTE. Let's move on. Okay, so read aloud. You can be given a paragraph of up to 60 words. You've got 35 seconds to prep. What I want you to do when you are prepping, I want you to read through the text quickly, identify the words that you are 100% certain you cannot pronounce. You can drop those words, okay? The main thing is to concentrate on fluency. What will happen is a beep will sound, the microphone turns on, you have up to 40 seconds to talk, read out loud, and then the microphone turns off or you click submit next. The main thing you need to remember is, because it's a microphone and it's attached near your mouth, right? There are lots of ambient noises that are being recorded as well. Now they say, oh, after the exam submission, there's a bit of a cleanup and noise cancellation. Let me tell you straight up, if you've got someone next to you who's yelling, shouting, who's got a really high pitched voice, your marks are almost certainly going to be disturbed. But that greatly disrupts your speaking score. How does it affect your reading score? Well, if your pronunciation is affected by the person or people next to you, there's a solid chance you will lose points on content. Okay? So, I have a rule. Number one, to get a high reading score, you have to include content. Please do not do any of that bullshit one sentence things. It's an English test. Pass the English test, okay? Don't do the one sentence thing. Don't drop so many words that you end up reading less than 60% of the total paragraph. That's not on. It's not okay. Don't do it. Okay? Only skip words that you cannot pronounce at all. All right? And remember the rule. You can say what you want, but what you do say it right and say it smoothly. Okay? The AI software must clearly recognize the words that you have said. And this happens quite often. I find a lot of students that speak really quickly because I want to get it all in the same breath and I want to say what I need to say. Don't do that, because AI is not a human being. It needs to detect the end and the beginnings of each word to hear the words go back to back. Okay? So, contrary to popular belief, fluency is heavily affected by pronunciation. If you are not pronouncing the entire word and just the beginning part of a word, the AI is not going to be able to detect that the word was completed, and here's one whole big word and your pronunciation scores go down. Then you take a big breath because you've been reading so much, and then you start again, your fluency scores are affected. You need to speak at a consistent, constant, normal rate. Not too fast, not too slow. Nice and clear. Remember the rule. Say what you want, but what you say it right. Okay, let's move on from read aloud and into our fill in the blanks. Now, across the board, all fill in the blanks questions are important, whether it's in reading or listening. They are very, very important. Okay, so let's talk about fill in the blanks reading only. The main thing you need to know is that the texts are shorter than reading and writing. Okay, there can be up to 3 to 5 word blanks and up to 8 word options to choose from. All right, the answers are dragged and dropped into the blanks. All right, the main skill that you're going to need in this particular question type is grammar and collocation. Collocation, there is a whole list that you can download, and I'm sure there are lots of tutors online that are just harping on and on about it. But for non-native English speakers, it has to be said, it's not easy. It's really not easy for you to get really familiar with collocations, and this is where your lack of knowledge in collocations will show. Okay? For example, it we don't I'm going to take toddlers. Take a toddler, which is not an infant, not a tiny baby, and not a preschooler. It's someone who toddles, right? Toddlers have tantrums. Okay? Let's take the word tantrum. In English, we will say he is throwing a tantrum. He's not making a tantrum. He's not doing a tantrum. He's throwing a tantrum. So why do we choose to use words like throw and tantrum together? Why do they match? And those are collocations. And the only way you can kind of get used to them is if you keep hearing them. For example, another example can be to look after or to take care. Why do I take care? Why do I look after a child? Okay, so these are all words that we combine to make one meaning. All right? We don't, you can, so another word is party. Quite often I have Italian students who will say, I want to make a party. No, it's I want to have a party, or I want to throw a party, or I want to have a party. right? So in general, you have to learn which words go with what. And that's what collocation and phrasal verbs are. Okay? All right. Sorry, I just got really distracted there. I digress. Okay, coming back to it. Follow the flow for all fill in the blanks questions. It's the same for reading and it's the same for reading, writing, fill in the blanks. The step 1 is assumption. Step 2, elimination. Step 3, the most logical sounding option in your head. And step 4, guess, but I want you to guess between two. Now, before I move on, let's talk about assumption. If you see the text is about dental hygiene, cleaning teeth, right? There are certain words that you know naturally go in with dental hygiene. Flossing, brushing, rinsing, mouthwash. In general, you can kind of guess by making an assumption, even before you look at the options, what the blank might be. That's the first step. When you read it, you have to give yourself an idea and make an assumption and assume, okay, I think it might be this. And then look at your options and see which options kind of fit. Okay? If you can't immediately find the answer based on your assumption, then you move on to elimination. Now, what does elimination mean? You're looking at these options and you go, that option is definitely 100% wrong. We are going to remove it from our list. Next. Then you've eliminated, and once you've eliminated all the others, you go to most logical sounding option. I want you to reread the whole sentence with a chosen option from the bottom. Fit it in and read it to yourself. Does it sound right? Your English should already be at a level where you can hear when something does not fit. For example, making a party. You know it doesn't fit. You can feel it. You might not know the right thing to say, but you know for sure that this is the wrong thing to say. That's what I want you to do. Choose the most logical sounding option. Remember, if it sounds wrong, it probably is wrong. Okay? You can hear it when you talk to your friends and they make mistakes, right? Same thing. If you hear it, if it sounds wrong, it probably is wrong. And then finally, the fourth step, and that's like at the bottom of the list, is guessing. You can guess, that's fine. But I don't want you to guess out of 5. I want you to guess out of 2. So you need to follow all those steps: assumption, elimination, most logical sounding options, and you guess between 2. This dramatically increases your chances of getting the answer right. Okay? Because you go from a 1 in 5 chance of being right to a 1 in 2. 50% chance of getting the answer right. The other thing I did not cover in this slide is how long I would like you to spend on these questions. All fill in the blanks questions are important. All of them are worthy of your time. Okay? And you need to manage your time within the reading section by yourselves. So what do? You tell yourself, I'm going to go through all 4 steps: assumption, elimination, most logical sounding option, and guessing in under 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes, no longer than that. Okay? Right? Because as I said, you might have to do reading fill in the blanks up to 5 times and fill in the blanks reading and writing 6 times. All right. Now let's talk about fill in the blanks reading and writing. The texts are much longer. Text can be up to 300 words, and there are up to 5 options in each drop-down box. Again, it's a slightly different set of skills that we're going to use, but all within the realm of reading. You need to be able to skim a text, scan for key ideas, and understand the basic idea of what's being said. Understanding context. Okay? Your job is to choose the most contextually and grammatically appropriate word. As always, follow the 4 steps: assumption, elimination, most logical sounding option, and finally, if you really must guess between 2. Once again, no more than 2 minutes per question. Okay, so let's make the assumption that we've spent 2 minutes each on fill in the blanks reading, which is up to 5 times. So that's 10 minutes gone. And then fill in the blanks reading and writing. You've spent 2 minutes on each of those. That's 12 minutes gone. Okay, so 10 plus 12, 22 minutes spent just on reading, writing, reading, fill in the blanks, and reading, writing, fill in the blanks. Okay? And finally, the final question type that we're going to cover is highlight incorrect words. Okay, so you're given 10 seconds before the recording starts playing to quickly read through the text. All right? The recordings can be up to 50 seconds long. So that's a long time to concentrate. All right? All you got to do is to use the prep time to skim through the text and move the mouse cursor along as you hear the text to click on incorrect words as they are heard. Again, go back to my tute for the question types. Any one of these question types, there's definitely a tutorial for it. And see what I mean by the karaoke method or the karaoke method, which is as the word's going, your mouse is following along. Your cursor is following along. If you miss it, it's gone. Keep going. You keep singing. You don't stop. All right? Because you have to remember that marks are removed for every excessive word you've highlighted. Every incorrect word you have highlighted takes away 1 mark. So let's say there were 5 words that you were meant to highlight and you've highlighted 7. It will be 5 and the correct 5. So you've highlighted 7. 2 points will be deducted. Okay, so in the end you get 3 out of 5. All right? Only highlight what is definitely incorrect. If you have missed it, move on. This is not right from dictation. You can't add words, okay? As a rule, a general rule, and I have found this quite consistently as well, there are no more than 7 incorrect words in a text. So if you're getting a bit trigger happy with your mouse and you've clicked like 8, I can basically guarantee that at least 2 or 1 of them is deeply incorrect. Okay, completely incorrect. All right, now let's move on. Things you need to remember about PTE academic reading. There are only 5 question types in the reading part of the exam, which can be up to 33 minutes long, but a total of 9 question types contribute to your final reading score. As I said, the 4 most important are fill in the blanks reading and writing, read aloud, fill in the blanks reading only, and highlight incorrect words. All the other questions are filler questions or time wasters. They contribute only minimally to your score. So, what do you need to do? Spend your time wisely. Concentrate on the most important question types. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about this time management situation because a lot of you get really stuck when you see things like reorder paragraph and you go, "Oh my god, I need to think about it. I need to get the right answer." No, you don't. You really don't. Can't figure it out? Read through it, try once or twice, move on. Never more than 40 seconds on one of those questions. Ever. Move on. Multiple choice answer. Can't figure it out? Move on. Don't worry about it. Concentrate on the main 4. Okay? Next, let's talk about why you have crappy or low reading scores. Okay? The first and most important reason is poor grammar. A lot of you forget that this is an English test. It's called Pearson Test of English. You need grammar and vocabulary. Okay? You need English grammar and English vocabulary. There are no tips, trips, hacks, cheat codes. None of that shit. Fix your English, get a good score. It's that simple. Okay? As somebody who actually lives in Australia, it really makes a difference when I hear that when someone tells me, "Oh, I got 88 for PTE speaking," when I know in reality, you're probably a 5 in IELTS at best. Okay? Do yourself a favor, really work on your English. Grammar, vocabulary, and phrasal verbs and collocations. Okay? Those 3 things: grammar, vocabulary, phrasal verbs, and collocations. The fourth reason for pretty low scores is unfortunate but true. It's too much time spent on unimportant question types. And I completely understand it. You get really distracted and hung up when you see questions like reorder paragraph and you go, okay, I want to try and get it right. Next thing you know, you don't pay attention to the time and you spend way too long on it. Right? The other thing that happens is because 9 questions across the board throughout the test assess your reading, you don't pay attention to them because they're not specifically in the reading part of the test. All right, so questions in other parts of the test that contribute to your reading scores get neglected. We can't do that. We know for sure read aloud is really important for your final reading score. And we know for sure highlight incorrect word is really important as well. Well, not really, but So you need to start paying attention to the exam as a whole instead of just section by section. That's why the focus series focuses on the skills. Okay? And the final reason for a poor score is poor time management in the reading section. Okay? There is a limit to how long they allow the reading section to run for. If you don't complete everything in time, that was your poor time management. You spent way too much time on unimportant, crappy filler questions. Okay? Don't waste time. All right. So that kind of brings us to the end. And what else can I say? All right. So as you can see, I am going to do a quick demo. Let's do a quick read aloud demo. As I said, use the prep time to look at the text and really check on the words that you think you might not be able to pronounce at all. Let me find something to say. Oh, this one's undone. Extracting carbon dioxide. Says easy. Let's see how we go. All right. So we're going to look at it. We've got our prep time. You might not be able to pronounce the word extracting, carbon dioxide, atmosphere, emissions, transforming, resource, converting, stable fuel. Okay, so I have looked at some words and I think, okay, it's not going to be an issue for me. I'm going to pronounce all the words, but you might hear me drop some words intentionally. Okay, let's start. Across the globe, there is a widespread effort to explore methods for extracting dioxide from the atmosphere or power plant emissions and transforming it into a valuable resource. Among the various ideas being explored, the concept of converting carbon into a stable fuel shows significant promise. Okay, so I've dropped the word carbon, I've dropped dioxide. Let's see how we went, okay? The main thing is if you drop too many words, you lose points on content, and content contributes greatly to your reading. All right, let's click the score. Across the globe, there is a widespread effort to explore methods. All right, doop. Let's see how we feel about it. Okay, we got an 89, very happy. So it heard that I dropped carbon and I dropped dioxide. Okay, content still got 89, 90, 99, 90.
Across the globe, there is a widespread
89 for fluency. I'm not sure why, but in general, you can see content matters. Okay, for reading scores, your content matters. Okay, the next demonstration I'm going to do is reading, writing, fill in the blanks. Let's do reading, writing, fill in the blanks. We can do a random one. Let's do a hard one. Subsidies. All right, some of you may not even know what the word subsidy means, but that's okay. So the timer has started running, as you can see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly read through it, and then I'm going to intensively read the ones with the blanks. Subsidies come in the form of, there we go, see? Assumption. The most commonly used are farm subsidies. This allows producers to lower the price of local goods and services. This product's cheaper, subsidies. This see, there was allows there, but makes the products, I think makes sounds better. So let's use elimination. It cannot be decides and promises. It's between makes and allows. Makes sounds better. The cheaper when, even when. So it can't be however, thus means so, but is instead of, doesn't make sense, so even. Subsidies work better than tariffs. This method works best for countries that rely mainly on exports. Sometimes subsidies, all right, however. So I'm going to guess here the assumption is however. On the contrary, however, instead, On the contrary, sometimes subsidies can have the opposite effect. Allows the government to pay farmers something to grow crops or livestock. All right. Okay. They allow the government to pay farmers not not to grow. Okay? Because which let the fields rest. All right, because it makes sense. It sounded right. Let's submit, see how we did. 1 minute 48 spent on it, 5 out of 5. Okay? That was a quick demo on reading, writing, fill in the blanks, which is a drop down list. As you can see, I always go with assumption first. I guess the answer before I look at the drop down list. All right, so now let's do a reading and writing fill in the blanks. Again, I need to preface this by saying sometimes ApeUni is really bad. There are major grammatical errors in some of their passages. Some of it is not factually correct. But again, you're doing this just for practice and not for self assessment. For self assessment, you do a Pearson practice test, okay? So let's look at some reading and writing options for fill in the blanks. Some of them will say hard, and a lot of these hard ones are just full of mistakes. It's shocking, really. I mean, there's no real way of flagging them and kind of letting them know that some of it's absolute shite. But here we are. Okay, let's try this one. Transitions in Britain. Timer has started, and I'm just going to read the text before doing a drag and drop. The transition, drop down, before looking at the drop down lists, the transition to Britain around 100 BC and after 43 AD when the Roman army invaded. There we are. I guessed it before I read it. Represent the key points of socioeconomic trend in Britain's past. See, grammatical error. Key points should be trends. During the 1st century BC, the traditional communal form of life changed, deteriorated, shifted. There we are, changed rapidly to a world where certain individuals became more important. There we are, became more important. That's all you need to do, my friends. You need to make the assumption. Once you've done, so we've done 53 seconds. Let's submit, see how we went. But, anyways, you start off by reading it, making an assumption. If you can't assume, then you eliminate the one that's definitely wrong. Then you go by most logical sounding. And finally, you guess. And if you do guess, you guess between two. Of course, this was 3 out of 3. Let's do another one just for, control purposes. Alrighty, tighty. Avid readers. Let's see if there are grammatical errors in this one. There's almost always grammatical errors, but we'll see. 1, 2, 3, 4, and quite a long text, so it'll take me more than a minute. Victorians were avid readers, just as we bury our faces in our mobile devices in the morning commute, as did. So too. As did so too. Did Victorians with their last penny fiction. Perhaps the best known serialized novels were the Penny Dreadfuls. Costing just 1 penny, they focused on the exploits of detectives, criminals, or supernatural entities. The price of new books, often only available as a set of 3, was out of reach for most working class people. So they borrowed from circulating libraries called Moody's, such as founded in 1842, which dispatched books all over Britain for a modest subscription fee. For the wealthier classes who could afford, there we go. It's always a guess, okay? Assumption first before you start looking at everything. You need to look at the text and not understand every word, but you need to understand the basic context of everything that you're looking at. So hopefully I get 4 out of 4. Let's see how we did. So we took 1 minute and 14. I'm happy with that. Righto, so now let's look at, let me zoom in first. Let me zoom in a little bit because we're going to do a highlight incorrect word demo. All right, so that's in the listening section. It is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh question type in the listening section. So by that time, you will be quite tired. You need to brace yourself for this, okay? All right. Use your time wisely. Remember, the cursor needs to follow along. All right, listen.
Dramatic changes in human life support systems took place in the modern world over the last 500 years. Human communities during this time period reached unprecedented sizes and growth rates. Global migrations introduced exotic plants, animals, developments, technologies, and cultural beliefs throughout the world. The Industrial Revolution and its aftermath transformed economies on an unparalleled scale and intensity. Urban spaces exploded in number and size during the period, and large-scale social systems emerged that were tied together by networks of economic exchange, transport, and communication.
Righto. Submit. So I've got 5 highlighted ones. Did you notice that my cursor was moving along at the same speed as the speech was going? Okay, it's all at the same speed. There's usually about 5. If you've highlighted more than 7, you're definitely highlighting too many. Okay, so as you can see, score 5 out of 5. I'll do another one for you. Watch the cursor go. Let's do a hard one. Let's find a hard one. Here we are. Probability. Let's go, my friends. Okay, so you got your prep time.
Oh, it's very spooky. First of all, probability by itself is spooky. Let me show you how probability enters the system. You walk past a store window, and you see an image of yourself in the store window. You're straightened apart. You're not so bad, for a man of my age. The guy in the store window who's fooling around with mannequins, he sees you, and you see yourself. What does that mean? A stream of photons from sunlight leaves your face, heads for the store window. Let's consider one of them. It has a choice. It can go right through so that the guy behind the window can see you, or it could be reflected from the store window. Some fraction of them are reflected, some of them go through. What determines that? What determines the future of that photon? And countless such examples teach us that it's random, that it's a throw of the dice. And that's where Einstein made his famous statement, God plays dice with the universe. At every instant of that single object, that quantum object, we have probability. We do not have certainty.
All right, so I've highlighted 5. It was quite a long text. Let's see how we went. It fell under the hard category, I'm assuming because of the length, but let's find out how I went, okay? And that will be the last demo of the day, and then I will cut to an exit, and you will see this on 5 out of 5. I'm very happy with that. Oh, well, I know I don't post tutorials often enough, and I really do want to, and I really do want to teach as much as I can, because obviously I'm delivering material that's pure teaching, and I would love to teach more, but sometimes I can't. And I hope to go back to posting on Mondays, if that's possible, in term 3 of 2025, but we'll see how we go. Anyways, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And if you've made it to the end, thank you for your patience and for listening to me rant. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope to share more and more stuff. The next focus episode will be on PTE academic writing. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much.